Ladies and gentlemen, this keynote address is sponsored by DTE Foundation. Please welcome Lieutenant Governor of the State of Michigan, Garlin Gilchrist II.
All right, good morning, Detroit. Good morning, Detroit Policy Conference. It's an honor to be here with you. I normally start out saying I'm bringing greetings from Gretchen Whitmer, but you just heard that. This is important. I'm proud to be here today to stand here before you, not just as your Lieutenant Governor, but as a Detroiter, to be here at this conference to talk about how we will move forward and define this next decade. And I want to talk about something that's important to me in my experience as an entrepreneur, and how we can expand our understanding of entrepreneurship to define this next decade. So the question about what we want the state of Michigan to be known for going forward. You heard the governor talk about it a little bit. We all know what people ask us about, what we hear about when people think of Michigan. You hear about our history in terms of defining mobility for the last century. I'm proud because red pop is the best pop ever created. Michigan is the part of the globe that you can recognize from space, because I like to say it represents God's handprint on our planet. How many Lafayette people do we have in here? How many American people do we have in here? Wow, okay. My kid's like American, but I like Lafayette, so it's all good. Counties are something that we all share culturally. Motown, Strohs, Bells. These are things that have defined Detroit's role in our culture, not just in Michigan, not just in the country, but around the world. People recognize you when you're from Detroit. A lot of y'all travel, and when you travel someplace, if you wear a Tigers hat, or if you went to the University of Michigan, like I did, there we go, thank you, yes, no apologies for going to Michigan. But if you wear that Block M, if you wear that Block S, if you have a Tigers hat on, y'all know that you will never be alone in an airport. You will always find somebody who will want to talk to you and connect with you about your shared experience with this beautiful place called Detroit. But I want to position how Michigan can be defined going forward. For the next 10 years, we've thought about for the last 100 years the things that Michigan has moved. Michigan's moved people. Michigan has moved goods, services, in a literal sense for mobility. But I want to posit to you that this next decade and going forward, we can move much more. What if we make Michigan the place that moves ideas? What that means is any person, regardless of your station in life, we all have ideas. But we need to do the work to make sure that Michigan is the place where those ideas can be viable, where you can bring those ideas into the world and have them be successful, where we don't have people that frankly have the experience that I had. You see, when I graduated from Michigan, I wanted to be a software developer. That idea, I want to create software that changes the world. But unfortunately, in 2005, I felt like I needed to go someplace outside of Michigan to move that idea forward in my life. I'm going to talk about the ideas and the investments that we are making now and that we're going to make going forward that will make it so that is not true for people going forward in Michigan, so that any idea can move. So let's talk about things that Michigan has been known for that last 100 years. I'd argue it's really three things: innovation, grit, and entrepreneurship. Three concepts that everyone in this room, I believe, is pretty familiar with and really has exhibited in one form or another. But I hate when people use words and don't have a definition for them, so I want to talk about what I mean by these terms. You see, innovation, you hear that word all the time. It is a buzzword that has been so overused that it has become meaningless. Everyone says that they are innovating, but no one agrees as to what that means. So I think we should define innovation quite simply: something that's new, different, better, more valuable to more people. Now notice that definition doesn't have a particular technical slant, because you can innovate in things beyond technology. You can innovate in partnership and relationship, which is something that is core to how the Detroit Regional Chamber and the Detroit Policy Conference function. You can innovate in terms of creating space. That doesn't necessarily need technology. Now grit, we hear a lot about grit, how important grit is to success. In the last 10 years or so, it's been talked about a lot in the context of how we can foster grit amongst young people, because it is shown to be a determining factor in your success. I see that simply as the ability to focus on a goal and make sure that the setbacks that come in front of you when you're trying to reach that goal, that you can overcome them, that you'll stick with it. And this is something that entrepreneurs I know have to do every single day. But let's think about entrepreneurship. There are some classic definitions of entrepreneurship. I'll get to that. Entrepreneurship, the sort of understanding of it has really evolved over time. Whereas right now, or say over the last 15 years or so, certainly my experience of entrepreneurship and how it was talked about was in a technology sense. An entrepreneur is a person starting a technology startup. Previously it's an entrepreneur was someone who had an idea, who sweated out that idea, who built prototypes, who made solutions. But I want to expand that understanding, because entrepreneurship represents so much more. And I think if we expand that understanding, not only do we welcome more people into an opportunity to exercise their entrepreneurial spirit, but it enables us to create more opportunity for everyone. The classic definition of entrepreneurship is someone who organizes, manages, and assumes the risk of a business or enterprise. But the definition that we should use for the next 10 years. Entrepreneurs are people who turn barriers into springboards. Entrepreneurs are people who see problems and solve them. And entrepreneurs are people who seize opportunity and make the most of it. So I want to tell a few stories that highlight this, because entrepreneurship exists in all forms, in all people across the state of Michigan. There is no one particular type of person who is an entrepreneur or who gets to be an entrepreneur. But I think in those classic definitions, our understanding of who could be an entrepreneur was very, very dangerously narrow. But this is about opening up for more people. So I want to talk about someone, a young woman named Jacques Weese. She is the person who has seen barriers and turned them into springboards. This vignette is kind of like a story of her life. So the first picture, little baby in a sink. I got a 7-month-old baby. How many of y'all have given your baby a bath in the sink? Okay, very, very universal experience. This is Jacques Weese in the sink. So her childhood, she started growing up on the east side of Detroit, right by Morningside. She went to a combination of public and private school. She was a ball player, someone that was full of life, energy, vitality, and potential. Jacques Weese had a baby girl when she was 16. 13. Just in case y'all don't know, Jacques Weese is here. She just stepped on that. She had a baby girl. And for some people, having a child, means that you got to make a lot of different choices. That doesn't mean it's for everybody. But sometimes it means you have to really shift and change your path. But Jacques Weese is this entrepreneur in the sense that she saw and there was a barrier, there was an opportunity for a barrier to be presented. And she turned that into a springboard to success. She kept working hard. She finished high school at the top of her class. She went to the best college in the world, the University of Michigan. She graduated. This graduation picture is her with her baby girl. She then went on to go to law school, graduated from law school. Now, she graduated from law school with $288,000 student loan debt. That hurts. That's a barrier for a lot of people to success. But she pushed through that. And Jacques Weese is a leader in this community in so many ways. Some of you have probably participated in something called Detroit Soup. But Detroit Soup is this amazing, amazing event where people come together. Everybody pays like $5. Come, you break bread, you have dinner. Then at the conclusion of that dinner, you listen to someone from the community present an idea that needs to be invested in. And they use and then that idea then benefits from the investment of everyone who paid to come to that dinner. It's a way for the community to fund ideas, to support entrepreneurs, if you will, in a community. Creating space for that. Jacques Weese works with the Build Institute, helping entrepreneurs to step up and be successful. This last picture, though, is the most important one. That's Jacques Weese and her girl when she graduated. This is a story of success, of seeing all these barriers and springing above them, rising above them to create opportunity for somebody else. I want to tell another story about a kid named Monty. Now, I know we in Detroit, this story ain't from Detroit, but work with me. Monty lives in Muskegon Heights. Monty is 13. Monty is standing there with a bucket, okay? Because how many of y'all know that our roads are not great? Everybody, though, when they see a problem, they don't do something about it. Well, at the time, 12-year-old Monty Scott in Muskegon Heights, who had a roll full of potholes in front of his house, said, I'm going to do something about it. So he went and he got a bucket and some sand and a shovel and went out and filled the potholes on his own street. This young man is an entrepreneur. He saw a problem and did not wait for somebody to come up with a solution to fix it for him. He went and took matters into his own hands. He said that I'm going to solve this problem for myself, for my family, for my community, for my state. And that's what entrepreneurs do. When you see a problem, your inclination is to fix it. Now, Monty couldn't be here with me because Monty's 13, so he's at school. But y'all might see Monty later tonight at the State of the State. The final story I want to tell is of a man named Frank Davis. First name is Leo, he goes by Frank. Frank is a lifelong Detroiter. Frank is a tradesman. Frank is a member of the union, the pipe fitters. Frank's first project was working on Cobo Hall, TCF Center, excuse me. It was Cobo Hall then. Frank he was an apprentice through the union, where he got world-class, top-notch training that prepared him for a successful career. One of his most proud achievements is being a leader, helped leading the pipe fitters for the renovation of all 73 floors of the Renaissance Center. Frank has had such a successful career, taking advantage of that opportunity and those trainings. He's leveraged that now to be working with FCA. With FCA, that is, as the governor mentioned, has announced this amazing investment in Detroit. It's really a big investment all across the state of Michigan, creating jobs and opportunities. Y'all heard this morning about how FCA is prioritizing training and hiring returning citizens to be able to participate in these new jobs of today, not even jobs of tomorrow. Frank's a leader in that because of his experience. He sees the opportunity that was made available to him, and now he is creating the space for more Frank Davises in partnership with FCA, for more people to be successful, for more people to have opportunity. Entrepreneurs seize opportunity, and then they go and create more of it. Let's all give Frank a hand because he is here with us today. So it's up to us to act. We all have a role to play to enable the entrepreneurial spirit that will lead to more opportunity being created in this next decade in Detroit and beyond. We have work to do. I want to talk about what we're doing as a state government, really briefly, what we're proposing. First, we are investing in education for children and adults. Regardless of your station in life, regardless of your zip code, of your county, we need to create the conditions for people to be successful. And that means investing in people. We are working to close the skills gap. We put particular specific programs in place. One that's relevant here is called the Michigan Reconnect Program, which provides a tuition-free pathway for any adult in Michigan to get professional training or certification, to get an associate's degree. This is bipartisan legislation that's already been introduced. The Michigan Opportunity Scholarship Program for any kid in high school who earns a be average, a 3-point. That's the only requirement. You have a tuition-free pathway to community college or tuition assistance on the first 2 years of a 4-year degree. Creating space and opportunity to close that skills gap so that we can reach the goal that we set of having 60% of people in the state of Michigan have some kind of post-high school credential, a degree, a certification in the next 10 years. We also are trying to create these conditions by investing in our environment. We've seen environmental catastrophes, and that's why we negotiated and won more than $100 million to continue to fix our water infrastructure and research how to fix it going forward across the state of Michigan. We're also leading the nation when it comes to setting standards for other contaminants like PFAS so that we can keep our drinking water safe for the next generation. And then last, but certainly not least, we have an infrastructure problem that needs to be solved. This is not just about roads, however. We need to better connect our communities. Somebody here in this conference is going to talk about transit. We need to better connect our communities by transportation. We need to better connect our communities to make sure that everyone has a full experience of the internet. That's not true today in the city of Detroit, nor in the state of Michigan. These are the investments that we're looking to make. But even with all of this work that we are trying to do at the state level, I think that is insufficient to achieve what we need to achieve. In order to have this next decade be the decade where Michigan moves ideas, where the entrepreneurial spirit that exists in every person can be drawn out of them and put into the world in the state of Michigan so they know that they have a future here. They can build their future, build their families, build their businesses, build their careers in Michigan. All of us collectively have to work to enable that entrepreneurial spirit, have to create the opportunities for people to not only seize opportunities but then create more for others, have to create the opportunities and the space for people to be able to be more observant of their problems and have the tools and resources to be able to solve them in a creative manner. And we have to enable more people, regardless of where they started, to spring past the barriers that are in front of them so that they can be their highest and best selves. So let's do that together. Let's make this happen. Let's stand tall for our communities. Let's make Michigan continue to be the greatest state in the country. Thank you so much, Detroit Policy Conference. God bless y'all. Let's work together.